So all right, so now we are into second chapter, the true heritage. The reason overall Gosho lectures are long, the entire book is dedicated to this Gosho, is for two reasons. Reason one is that it is really an important to start with. If one Gosho someone has to really understand deeply, then this is the Gosho. And the second reason is, since it is important, Sensei had made sure to explain every line in detail. However, we should not make it research or theoretical study. We must read this Gosho, chant, and again read Gosho to really imbibe the spirit of this Gosho in our life and have key takeaways, which, if someone asks us, can also tell them. So, we are studying this Gosho, we are appearing in the exam to not get certificate or brag about it, but to really lead our blog, district, discussion meetings, one-on-one dialogues in a better way. To really apply this Gosho, take away at tactical level when we are encouraging someone to make sure the takeaways get applied on daily basis. Also, when we study these lectures and apply it in the daily life, we get actual proofs, both conspicuous and inconspicuous, which helps us to showcase the veracity of the mystic law and helps us to bring out Kosen Rufu in our vicinity. Applying it on day-to-day basis is very important. With this intent, I hope you will not just view or go through this video now, but keep on referring it again and again to deepen the understanding. So, in chapter 1, we understood what the ultimate law of life and death actually is, Namyo Renge Kyo. The essence of the mystic law, Namyo Renge Kyo, as an eternal rhythm uniting life and death, and that this heritage flows only through faith based on the oneness of mentor and disciple, and many in body, one in mind. Right? This is the essence of the chapter 1, that we understood that the heritage of law is none other than Namyo Renge Kyo, and the Namyo Renge Kyo heritage can be obtained only through faith and can only be continued when we follow the path of mentor and disciple, and we follow the principle of many in body, one in mind. Now, in the last chapter, people had few questions. Though I answered there, however, it was coming again and again. So, for the benefit of all, let me quickly take it up in less than 2 minutes here. It's very important to understand that we are again talking about sufferings of birth and death. It doesn't mean sufferings at the time of these two events, but it means sufferings between these two events and eternally also between death and birth. So, sufferings of birth and death doesn't mean that the sufferings at the time of birth or suffering at the time of death. It also means that the suffering between these two timelines, which is the life. And it also means, because eternity of life, sufferings between death and life. So, when we die and infuse our life with the universe and wait for the right conditions to manifest for again taking the birth, between these two timeline also the law keep on operating in our life, right? So it means that it is not like that if we practice mystic law, then sufferings between birth and death won't come. However, we will be best equipped to handle them, manage them, and overcome them. We will, in fact, draw joy out of these challenges. Life itself is joy, and that is what excites people, not just success. And that's what precisely the meaning of earthly desires are enlightenment, right? And it is not about just winning the challenges or achieving the milestones for oneself. It is equally important to feel joy while enduring the hardships and during the karma. Like Nichiren Daishonin said, hell is land of tranquil light. So it is not about age but mileage. And how to generate joy? The equation is very simple. Do daibuku, do shakobuku, do home visits with a faith. That is how you will manifest faith in the action. The other question that keep on coming is that, and I agree that accepting death of loved ones, even when we know that death is certain, that is something very difficult. Definitely, this is one of the biggest challenge in life. However, it is only through this practice one can understand and move forward. By truly believing in eternity of life and have that kind of life state to really understood it and accept it. Even if you look at Sensei's life, Sensei and Mrs. Cicada lost their 28-year-old son all of a sudden in an accident. Right? That's how the life is. Now, in the chapter 2, we are going to in the chapter 1 we talked about certain principles, certain way of continuing. In the chapter 2 we will establish the legitimacy and transmission of heritage of the Lotus Sutra. We will clarify that Namyo Renge Kyo is not a new creation but the fundamental law Shakyamuni relies in the remote past, and we will also understand how this law is entrusted to Bodhisattva of the earth and eventually it means to all of us. Right now, um, we know that the law will be carried through faith and not intellectualism, right? However, it doesn't mean that we stopped using logic, asking questions, reasons, right? Why? Because Buddhism is reason. And Siren Bo, like we know, was not just an ordinary lay disciple, but was himself priest. So, to really convince someone of that stature requires Nichiren to also use all of his skills intellect, reasoning, and logic. As part of that reasoning, logic, Nichiren Daishonin in this Gosho itself, in a systematical, logical way, discuss the rationale behind this heritage law. So, Nichiren Daishonin cites the example of treasure tower to showcase that heritage of law is passed in Lotus Sutra. We know that only in Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni Buddha talked about many new things, which were preached for the first time. Like women can attain Buddhahood, we can attain Buddhahood in this lifetime only. One can move from one world or life state to another directly instead of stepping up gradually, which basically means mutual possession of 10 worlds. This mutual of possession of 10 worlds has lot of significance, and we will discuss it in later in the chapter, right? Now, also it is a Lotus Sutra and only Lotus Sutra which talks about passing of the law, passing on the heritage of this law. So the grandeur of treasure tower, ceremony in the air with the gods, deities of all direction coming at the ceremony in the air, that signifies the passing on the heritage of the law. So the entire premise of treasure tower was nothing but passing on the baton of law, passing the heritage of law from Shakyamuni Buddha and many treasure to Bodhisattva superior practices. There is no mention of such ceremony or passing on the law in any other sutra. So apart from other things, Lotus Sutra also talks about passing on the baton. That can be one of the important key takeaways from this chapter as well. Now, Nichiren Daishonin truly understand the significance of this event. So we all have read or we all know about ceremony in the air, but it was only Nichiren Daishonin who truly understood the real meaning behind the ceremony in the air. So true purpose of the ceremony in the air was nothing but Buddha's great wish of universal enlightenment and to enable people in the latter day of the law in the evil age to attain enlightenment. That was a mission was entrusted to Bodhisattvas of the earth, right? And we remember, if you remember, what does attaining Buddhahood means? It means to overcome sufferings of birth and death. So essentially, ceremony in the air was passing on the true heritage of ultimate law of life and death. That is where entrustment took place, right? So now we are talking about three stakeholders. So if we read ceremony in the year, in this ceremony in the year, there were three stakeholders, right? So let's understand about these three stakeholders, right? The first stakeholder was none other than Shakyamuni Buddha. So the Shakyamuni Buddha was the one who did the entrusting. It becomes highly significant as the entrustment, the baton is getting passed on directly from Shakyamuni Buddha himself, the one who himself preached the Buddhism, right? So Shakyamuni Buddha was not just the Buddha of Saha world, but the eternal Buddha, the one who attained Buddhahood in the remote past. And what is the meaning of attaining Buddhahood in the remote past? It means that everyone, each one of us, if we chant Namyo Renge Kyo, can attain enlightenment. We have this seed of Buddhahood within each one of us since remote past. So historical Buddha attaining enlightenment under Bodhi tree and Buddha attaining enlightenment in remote past means that firstly the seed of Buddhahood is within each one of us since remote past, and we all can attain Buddhahood unequivocally, right? He was the eternal Buddha who is one with the eternal mystic law, and he worked unceasingly to spread the law. So, if Shakyamuni Buddha himself passing on the baton and trustment himself, then it leaves no room for ambiguity, doubt, or apprehension. Also, since it is passed on by Buddha himself, it leaves no doubt that it was a fundamental law that can liberate all people from the sufferings of birth and death and enable all people to attain Buddhahood. This entrustment by Buddha, the fundamental law was Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. That was a law that was entrusted by Shakyamuni Buddha. So this stakeholder, Shakyamuni Buddha, himself entrusting means the law is correct and appropriate with respect to the time of spreading. Now the second stakeholder in the ceremony in the air was many treasures Buddha. So, what is the significance of many treasures Buddha? He is the one who attests universality of the principles of Lotus Sutra. He is Buddha who comes forth, appears wherever Lotus Sutra is preached. So when Shakyamuni Buddha started preaching Lotus Sutra, many treasures Buddha was sitting beside him. He was not saying anything. However, his presence himself itself means he is endorsing what Shakyamuni Buddha was preaching. He is also Buddha from long past, aeons back, and who may seem to pass into extinction. However, as soon as Lotus Sutra is preached, wherever and whenever, he will appear without fear. His appearance signifies two things. First is that preaching of Lotus Sutra is actually happening, and he attests the authenticity, the veracity of Lotus Sutra. That this is in it said this Lotus Sutra is correct and universally applicable. So think of Penetration Buddha as witness who attest that the entrustment happened, who will attest to entrustment and also put a seal of confirmation that the law entrusted it is universal. So, and when what is the meaning of universality? It means that this law is applicable everywhere and on all living entities, right? So, Shakyamuni Buddha is passing on the fundamental law of universe, Namyo Renge Kyo, and is doing so in presence of many treasures Buddha. So, this stakeholder, many treasures Buddha, is making sure the and attesting the universality of the law. And who is this getting entrusted to? That is the third stakeholder, which is Bodhisattva superior practices. Now, Bodhisattva superior practices is the leader of Bodhisattvas of the earth. Bodhisattvas of the earth are those who will actually propagate the fundamental law of the universe, Namyo Renge Kyo, in the latter day. So, the third stakeholder is the active practitioner capable of propagating fundamental law in latter day to cure the sufferings of all humankind. So, now we understand the three stakeholders, right? Now, but why entrustment? The question arises. We are okay with Shakyamuni Buddha. We understand many treasures Buddha. However, why the entrustment? Why the baton was passed on only to Bodhisattva superior practices? Why not to other like Bodhisattva of the theoretical teaching or the Bodhisattva from the other worlds? Right? Why Shakyamuni Buddha considered only Bodhisattva superior practices as qualified to do so and others not? Right? The answer is because it is only Bodhisattva superior practices who was trained and received instructions from remote past by Shakyamuni Buddha himself. Bodhisattva superior practices was the only one who was in the possession of the law that was originally expounded at that time in the remote past. So Bodhisattva superior practices was directly trained in the remote past by Shakyamuni Buddha, and he was the only one who know about the actual law, which was Namyo Renge Kyo. So essentially, Bodhisattva superior practices and Bodhisattva of the earth were direct disciple of Shakyamuni Buddha from remote past, who have been trained to carry on the legacy in the latter day of the law. That's why Bodhisattva of theoretical teachings and others were not interested, and only Bodhisattva superior practices and in extension Bodhisattva of the earth were interested. And so we understand that Bodhisattva superior practices was trained directly by Shakyamuni Buddha about the universal law Namyo Renge Kyo in the remote past. That was the one reason. The other is that he was the only one who truly understands the mutual possession of 10 worlds, which essentially means that Buddhahood is inherent in every life. The other Bodhisattvas were still of the view, partially because they were given that teaching only, that one has to eradicate other 9 worlds to attain Buddhahood. You have to eradicate earthly desires and work on eradicating for aeons and aeons, then only you can attain Buddhahood. That was the understanding of Bodhisattva theoretical teachings and other Bodhisattvas, right? However, it was only Bodhisattva superior practices who truly understand the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. So the other Bodhisattvas were good for former and middle day of the law, however not good enough for the latter day of the law. The heritage of law, Namyo Renge Kyo, the law that enabled all to attain enlightenment, including Shakyamuni Buddha in the remote past, was passed on to Bodhisattva superior practices, right? And also, invoking Buddhahood, which is inherent in every life, can only be done through personal interaction and lots of efforts, which require specific skills on which Bodhisattva superior practices was trained directly by Shakyamuni Buddha himself in the remote past. So, look at the compassion of Shakyamuni Buddha, the eternal Buddha, the Buddha from the remote past, that the compassion was not just limited to his lifetime, but the lifetime and lifetime coming afterwards. And what would be the scenario, and who will be the right person equipped to propagate the law in the that age, right? So Bodhisattva of theoretical teaching was good for the former and middle day. However, the latter day of the law is something where a lot of personal interaction was required, truly understanding mutual possession of 10 worlds and understanding the heritage of the law Namyo Renge Kyo. So that's how Shakyamuni Buddha actually trained Bodhisattva superior practice in the remote past, and when the right time manifested, he appeared, right? So essentially, Bodhisattva superior practices, along with his team of Bodhisattvas of the earth, were the best fit to lead in the latter day of the law, to teach, reveal, and unlock the mystic law for those who are deluded. Right? That's why entrustment happened only to him, and in extension to Bodhisattvas of the earth, to liberate all people from the sufferings of birth and death. Right? Now, the question arises: where were Bodhisattvas of superior practices and Bodhisattvas of the earth were earlier? In chapter 15 of Lotus Sutra, it is mentioned that before emerging from the earth, they were dwelling in the empty space underneath the Saha world. What is the meaning of space underneath the Saha world? It means that they are residing with mystic law, residing with Namyoho Renge Kyo in the depth of each one of our life. Okay. Now, we have understood the entrustment process, the key stakeholders, and why not, why it has been done by Shakyamuni Buddha, what is the role of many treasures Buddha, and why it has been specific to Bodhisattva superior practices and in extension to Bodhisattvas of the earth. So what were the qualities of the Bodhisattvas of the earth, right? That was that led them to get interested. So the first quality of the Bodhisattvas of the earth was wisdom. Wisdom to lead all people to happiness. Think of it like a highly skillful master who knows all tricks of the trade, who has answers to all problems, and those tricks, those answers are within that master. They have all the wisdom to lead all people towards happiness. As soon as the right time comes, opportunity comes, he will come forth and explain it beautifully, articulate it with wisdom. So Bodhisattvas of the earth has wisdom to manifest the mystic law at any time, and has capability to spread it even in the most evil and defiled age. So that is one of the qualities of Bodhisattvas of the earth. Right. So two key points here: that Bodhisattvas of the earth has wisdom to manifest mystic law anytime, and capability to spread it even in the most evil and defiled age. Right. So we all know that it requires immense wisdom, articulation, empathy, and skills to break through the darkness, ignorance, and manifest mystic law in one's life and others. Right. That is what Bodhisattva of superior practices and Bodhisattva of the earth are capable of. Okay. In fact, Bodhisattva superior practices was endowed with supreme power of wisdom, right? And like the name suggests itself, that he is incomparable excellence in practice. So he was the one who was actually made of doing actions. That's why Bodhisattva superior practices. Now he is leader of Bodhisattvas of the earth, and the army of Bodhisattvas of the earth, like you and me, can acquire the same traits as the leader, which is the wisdom. However, like we said in the first chapter, ultimately the heritage of the law can only be upheld by with faith. So when we have a faith and when we chant with the faith, we will have the wisdom, immense wisdom coming forth within our life, which will help us to overcome all the challenges, plus also to propagate the mystic law even in the most difficult age. That is the one quality of Bodhisattva of the earth. Now, the other quality of the Bodhisattva of the earth is a power of faith, power of heart, right? So, Bodhisattvas of the earth carry forward with the leader Bodhisattvas superior practices by substituting faith for wisdom. So, which comes first? Whether the wisdom comes first or the faith comes first? The answer is faith comes first, right? So, there is a line here: substituting faith for wisdom. It basically means to truly believing in power of Lotus Sutra, believing in the leader. Who is the Bodhisattva superior practices? He is none other than Nichiren himself. It means that everyone may not have intellect, may not have time, resources, and capabilities to understand Sutra, right? Even in Soka Gakkai, it's not that everyone read Gosho every day, or have read Lotus Sutra for that matter, or everyone doesn't have that much of time, capabilities, and intellect, right, to understand the concepts and everything. However, a person with faith is 10x, 100x better than the person who has a PhD in Nichiren Buddhism, right? That is the meaning of substituting faith for wisdom. It may sound contradictory that earlier we were saying that Bodhisattva has immense wisdom, and now we are saying that they are substitute faith for wisdom. It means that even if you have faith, and with faith you will chant Daimoku, You will get wisdom to initiate conversation, to take action in your daily life, and to shakabuku people. With intellect, you won't be able to do that. Only when you have a power of faith, when you have a power of heart, when you conduct heart to heart dialogue, when your life interact with the other person, then only you will be able to spread. Right now, power of faith is power of heart. What is the power of heart? It is the power of heart that break through darkness or ignorance and manifest mystic law. Power of heart also means compassion, it means love, it means courage, wisdom. And based on this compassion, love, and courage, only then you will be able to propagate the Buddhism in the latter day of the law. Right? So, it is only in the efforts of such individuals that the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death flows. Right? So, deep faith, substituting faith for wisdom to break through all the challenges that deadlocks, fundamental darkness, and ignorance. That is the bottom line here. Right? Now, the what is the third quality of Bodhisattva of the earth? The first quality of Bodhisattva of the earth was wisdom, the second was power of heart, and the third one is power of practice. Now, taking vow for Kosen Rufu to propagating the law in this Saha world and actively propagating, becoming driving force and spreading teachings in the troubled and defiled age. That is the meaning of power of practice, right? Totally aware of the fact that in time when people's life is deep and pervasive, they are sure to encounter great obstacle and persecution. However, they are still determined to carry on the practice, carry on the vow to Kosen Rufu, right? And they are very firm in their intent and thought. That is the meaning of power of practice. So if you are a bodhisattva of the earth, wisdom, faith, and practice, putting wisdom and faith into action, no matter where we are, whatever obstacles we are facing, engaging in dialogue, doing our own human revolution and spreading, that is the meaning of power of practice, right? And also, if you observe, practice word itself is part of the name of Bodhisattva superior practice, as no one can practice better than him, and of course, no one can practice better than the disciples of him as well. That is we. It is only through power of heart and power of practice that the law of life of Namyo Renge can actually be transmitted to all humankind, right? So the key to unlocking the power of heart and power of practice is heritage of faith, both derived from faith only. So faith is a starting point. Faith is something that will give you wisdom. Faith will make your heart swell up with compassion and courage, and that compassion and courage will lead you to the do the right dialogue, do the your own human revolution and spread Buddhism in the latter day of the law. Right now, the next important point in chapter 2 is around Toda Sensei. So Toda Sensei often used to call Soka Gakkai members as bodhisattvas of the earth, right? And he himself was a bodhisattva of the earth, and he got realization of that when he was in prison, right? So I'll make a separate video, the events that led him to realize that he was actually the bodhisattva of the earth. Very beautiful, right? So that was like an awakening. So when he awakened to the mission, his mission of bodhisattva of the earth, and that's the reason when post world war, when he came out of the prison, he stood alone to build the organization and achieved seemingly impossible target of 750,000 households. So it was not about numbers, but it was chain reaction of heart to heart dialogue, encouraging every single member, empowering them with mystic law. His efforts to work tirelessly even when he was ill to achieve the target of 750,000 households, right? And he urged every member to manifest the power of heart, awaken to the mission, and bring forth the spirit of compassion to help people achieve happiness, right? So the question arises, what mission Toda Sensei was urging us to awaken to? To understand that we all are bodhisattvas of the earth, and we must revitalize our lives on the most fundamental level to cherish and experience unsurpassed joy, the same joy which Toda Sensei experienced when he got awakened to the reality that he is himself is a bodhisattva of the earth. Now, only when we are awakened to our mission, only then we shall feel a deep sense of fulfillment in our lives. So whosoever practicing for multiple years can vouch for it, that the no matter whatever we achieve in life, the real joy, real fulfillment for the bodhisattva of the earth, or the members who are actively practicing for the a good number of years, can only be achieved. They really feel it only when they are spreading Kosen Rufu, right? The power so incredible, the power of faith, the power of awakening to the mission is so incredible that once you get awakened to it, you can break the chain of destiny for yourself and for others, right? This mindset shifts from seeking help to the one who is providing help to others. and this change at individual level works like a chain reaction and changes the society, city, country, and ultimately the entire humankind. Right now, who is doing that in the latter day of the law? It's none other than Sukha Gakkai, right? Because that is the only organization which is working on Kosen Rufu. Like we discussed in chapter 1, that was the only organization which is helping us to continue in the to carry on the heritage of faith by a mentor disciple relationship and many in body, one in mind. And in the latter day of the law, that is the only organization which is spreading the which is spreading the law and awakening individuals to their mission and helping them to break the chains of their destiny, right? So if you look at all the campaigns, events, meetings are designed in such a manner to keep us growing in faith, right? Keep us engaged in practice, because continuation of practice is very important, and when we continue we will keep on reaping benefits and absolute happiness, right? Working on ultimate purpose of transmission of heritage in the ceremony in the air, that is something is done by none other than Soka Gakkai. So Soka Gakkai is actually a gathering of bodhisattvas of the earth who are spreading mystic law in the world through heritage of faith, and all the qualities which are in the bodhisattvas of the earth, wisdom, power of heart, power of practice, are getting implemented through the help of the Soka Gakkai as a beautiful organization, right? So generation after generation, the mystic law is getting passed on through heritage of faith through each one of us. Now it's up to us that we will be passing on, inheriting and transmitting the heritage of faith to the next level, right? So one question which generally comes and came to my mind as well when I was early in the practice, that if we are really Buddha and children of Buddha for that matter, we are the one who were trained directly by the eternal Buddha himself, right? Then why we have chosen such a difficult life, right? Also, how do we know that it is me really who choose such a karma, or is it just a narrative to feel optimistic? Because many times we say that we are the bodhisattvas of the earth and we are the one who choose where to born, when to born, and at what time to born, right? And so sometimes it feels very overwhelming कि यार मैंने क्या choose कर लिया था उस time पे, or is it just a narrative to feel optimistic, right? So important thing is that it is not your karma, it is volunteer karma. Okay, the karma you have chosen something on your own. Now, of course, if you have chosen then it will of course go away, right? So if I have to write my own destiny, if I have to write my own story, no matter how dramatic the story would be, can ending be that dramatic? Can never be, right? So picture abhi baki hai mere dost. So even if the situation is going tough, truly understanding this is a volunteer karma, because I am bodhisattva of the earth, I have chosen this karma to overcome it, and that is where the victory lies, right? So why you have chosen it? So that you can showcase the power of mystic law. So point here is that it is not karma but volunteer karma, and because it is volunteer, you have designed your own destiny, you have written it, so of course it will go away, and you have, it feels empowering actually, because you are not a victim of karma but you are the real protagonist of your own life. When you have written your own karma, then you are the one who is the main lead actor, and main lead actor even in a movie can go through a lot of challenges, lot of fight and evil. Ultimately it will come over all the struggle. So that is how the attitude should be when we look at this concept of bodhisattva of the earth, right? So this is it, this is it for the chapter 2. Now I have, so whatever I have told, whatever I have spoken, it is based on the mandated book and the mandate, and also the lectures which senior leaders have given. So I have tried to amalgamate everything to make it in a more digestible and biteable format. However, I really recommend that you all go through these exam questions, ponder over it again and again, try to understand what should be the answer, and in case ideally you should go back to the official book and try to relate to the video, and again watch this video again and again, try to imbibe the spirit and ponder over the questions, maybe pause it, maybe write it down somewhere, and try to answer the questions from your own life. If you do so, then you are sorted for the chapter 2, not just from the exam point of view but from the overall faith point of view. With that intent, thank you so much. I have my Instagram channel, I have my YouTube channel, you can scan and subscribe to it, follow me, and I'll continue to upload a lot of other videos as well in the coming time. So thank you so much for watching this video till the end. Thank you so much.